Hi, I'm Evie Kimsing, editor of identityweek.net. This afternoon, I'm going to be speaking to the principal owner of Blue Cavalry Solutions, Michelle Wilson. Michelle, it's really great to speak to you ahead of a really exciting event, Identity Week Europe in June, which will be we've welcomed you before, but it's your first time experiencing the Amsterdam show.
Yes, I'm very excited. And thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, it's great to have you on, especially as you're very specialised in identity management, secure credential design and issuance and human capital strategy. You're based in Virginia and
Yes.
you've now moved on. You were in a federal leaver, now you've moved on to set up your own company. Just tell us a bit about what your key focuses are, on this new kind of venture.
Well, thank you. So, yes, I founded Blue Cavalry last May as I was leaving the federal service. And very fortunate, we have a team of and I like to call us an elite consulting firm, team of experts, mostly from who have served in the federal government, lots of international experience. And the idea is that you call the cavalry if you want to, solve big problems. So we've been focusing on the kind of the building of seamless travel, digital identity, some of the physical ID work that I know I did a lot of when I was at the State Department. And it's been a lot of fun because, you leave the federal government, you're never really sure what's going to happen and what are you going to do. And we're just really fortunate that we've been able to work on some very cool projects with wonderful customers and just be still on that forefront of that physical to digital transition and help push seamless travel. So very exciting and again, best team ever.
Um, what sort of requirements and challenges are you experiencing now for modernizing identity systems and secure credentials? I'm sure you had one set of challenges in government, and now you're serving both public and private sector. What's important to address?
So I think there's one thing that they both have in common is that interoperability challenge, right? I think that you have a lot of standards that have emerged in the last few years where now you have the governments trying to figure out, well, what are we doing and how do we implement and how can we transition our old processes to the new? And then the private sector is what can we do to, help, right? How can we develop a product that the governments will use and then can be adopted? So that is the number one issue is finding standards, deciding how we're going to use them, and then also I think when you come to that interoperability, that's when you get real engagement and you get multiple people using a credential that can be used in multiple places. So I think that's really important. I also think that, we're seeing that from requirements that people want that frictionless, seamless experience. I know when I was in the federal government at TSA, we really noticed people love that touchless identity process that PreCheck had done. And that is definitely what people prefer to not have to pull up their wallet, or if they have their phone, maybe they don't have to swipe to their wallet. They can still keep in texting their friends or posting on Instagram. They just want to be able to use a biometric to walk through very seamlessly. And I think it's very secure and it gives that high level of trust to the authority that's doing that biometric verification. And it's just very easy for the passenger. So I think everyone is looking for that as well. You also have the requirement people looking for remote enrollment and at-home enrollment to make it easier. So when you get to your place, whether it's an airport or a train station or a government facility, you don't have to try to sit there and fumble through to enroll to do the cool fast thing, but you can do that in the comfort of your home. But finding ways to do that securely is still an industry challenge. So, and the governments, I think, are learning about more about what to ask for in procurements. And that's where I feel like people like me can come in to help. Okay, this is what the industry's doing. What do you need? And marry your requirements to what's out there. And then still keep that door open for innovation. That's the little difference between public and private sector is that the public sector is a lot of like in a wider sense, still learning about what these technologies can do and how they can use that within their regulatory environments.
And they'll take insights from the private sector and in terms of what solutions might be right for the public sector and government.
Yes.
Um, what identity standards are you supporting really now you're out of that bubble, to do with related initiatives and programs? What standards are really important to complement those?
Yeah. Yeah, to your point, yeah, Blue Cavalry's brand new. And so we're just starting to get right back into that standard space. But I think our like previous involvement with ISO, ICAO, IATA, all of that is very important. They all can work together, but it's just showing, especially, our government colleagues and government clients, okay, how do these standards not compete, but how can they be blended? And in the private sector as well, keep pushing that standards environment and making sure that the standards are being followed strictly and being followed for the reasons that the governments are, pushing for the individual standards. So it's an interesting world. So yes, we're still involved in hoping as we're growing to get back into the standards world and really get all back in because I love a good standard. But yeah, that's what we're doing now. And then again, still helping our government partners understand what the landscape is looking like in the private sector.
Yeah, and especially as identity systems become more advanced, um, I'm sure you'll want to help them strike a right balance between security and user experience and privacy and these standards, prioritize those.
Yes, exactly. And it's also that trust of back to the source authentication. That's what the government's really important to them is how do we connect that to the original issuing process? Because that's what they're trusting. And that issuance process, that's what ICAO's worked really hard at trying to standard like the no country left behind. That's where they're really working very hard to standardize and make strong. But then as we get digital identities, is making sure that even as we use drive credentials, where are you trusting? Where is that kind of the breeder document in the digital world, right? So that is really what we're trying to, figure that out as an industry, that physical digital transition. In physical world, we knew what our problems were with the breeder documents and where the vulnerabilities are. But then now that we're going to digital, we're looking through that as well. So that's what I think the governments are concerned with, and then helping the private sectors meet those requirements is super important.
Absolutely. And across the next 3 to 5 years, is there anything else you expect to see in the innovation to technology and regulation?
So more of that biometric authentication, really trusting that facial biometric that I think people are comfortable with right now. I think that is going to be it. I think as we're pushing those digital credentials, using digital credentials in the application processes for lots of things, I think you'll get to see more people who understand how to authenticate them and trusting them, especially in the United States with MDLs. More and more states are issuing them. So now we just need more people to, accept them as whether it's part of applications for government services, making that a big part of the process and that trust, that chain of trust, because I do think they can be more secure than the physical documents, and absolutely everything's done appropriately. So I think that's what we're really going to see. But then when you get into, especially in travel, that seamless travel, finding more ways to have a biometric be your kind of ticket to everything, and then using your biometric as your identity, because that is you, right? So it's the most trusted way to identify yourself is through your biometric, whether it is, connected to a physical or digital credential. But I think you'll see a lot more people just using their face for access.
Absolutely, liveness solutions. And lastly, how critical is the workforce development to the success of identity systems? I know you emphasize human capital strategy a lot alongside technical solutions.
Yes, no, it's really important. It's critical because as you're modernizing, and I went through this when I was in the federal government, it's okay, now what do we do with our workforce? How do we train them on these new tools so they can use their expertise in different ways? So sometimes, the workforce will look at, oh, you're automating this, you don't need me anymore. That's not the case at all. We now need you to use your specialized skills in a different way and telling people, what does this automated tool do for you? And now you can look at, if you understand how it works, you can look for fraud or bad actors in a better way. So it's leveraging your technology, leveraging your workforce. As we get more and more retirees, because that's a big thing in the United States. So if we do start looking at a decrease in the people in the workforce, or at least doing some of these older roles, how do we redeploy smartly? How do we use AI to supplement our workforce? And that is what I think Blue Cavalry is doing. We have a great human performance technologist that we've brought on board to help us look at how do we modernize smartly? How do we train globally? And I think that's just going to be a key to getting these technologies adopted and used appropriately so they don't become a vulnerability. They just stay an asset.
Absolutely. It's great to speak to you, and we haven't met before, so
Yeah.
thank you so much for speaking to me. I'm really looking forward to your session on interoperable borders to follow our discussion, and we'll see you in June.
See you in June.